Evening, everybody, and this is our welcome to the pre-show for TNT Season 3, Episode 1. So you're welcome to join the premiere. So this is your opportunity to check your audio and check your video. Pour yourself a glass of milk or tea, scotch or wine or your beverage of choice. Maybe have a piece of chocolate cake or rhubarb pie. The COVID-19 pandemic is still upon us. We're now in the 5th wave, I believe, and I would encourage you all to follow your provincial and or national health orders. So we're going to go to big screen now for our commercial. And I just want to encourage everyone to consider taking out an individual membership here at the museum, which is the low price of $75, or a dual membership for $100. And we have a few little promo items from our shop, all things Riopel this month. And we have this beautiful Jean-Paul Riopel notebook with this wonderful stencil-based work that I'm holding upside down, and now it's right side up. And it's got dots in it, and it's just a wonderful representation of one of Canada's best-known international artists. In addition, we also have a Riopel calendar with images from the exhibition that's here at the museum right now. And seeing that it is still January, this is quite a relevant piece of artistic representation. So again, the Riopel calendar retails for $34. What a deal. Okay, well, done with the commercials. We'll go to me on a tiny little corner of the screen. I just want to remind everyone that the museum is open Thursday to Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. We have some wonderful new additions to the permanent collection, and the Riopel Call of Northern Landscapes and Indigenous Cultures is on till February 21st. And now we're going to go right live into the broadcast. Okay, I'm on a big screen again. Welcome to Tuesday Night Talks, Season 3, and this is our premiere. I just want to say a special thanks to Susan Roop for her support of Season 3. Again, I would ask that everyone respect their provincial and national health orders, stay safe, and be nice. Tonight, we're back in the permanent collection by the flashlights glow. Season 3 is a little bit slicker. We have a new logo. I'm wearing a suit and I got longer hair. And I think we have a new camera as well, so we should have a sharper image. And we're happy to say that we have over 400 people registered for tonight's episode, a new record for this part of the broadcast. And we're going to discuss this work just behind me called Nations in an Urban Landscape, Oil on Canvas of 2019, as well as a collective work that is now on Blackcomb Way here in Whistler. And both of these works come to us courtesy of Levi Nelson. And now, live from New York City, on 115th Street in the Upper West Side at the Columbia University campus, Levi Nelson. Hi, Levi.
Hi, how's it going? Hi, everybody. Hello from Watson Hall here in New York City. I'd like to say thank you all for being here, and thank you to Curtis and to Michael and to everybody else behind the scenes at the Audain in Whistler. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Great, that's great. So, Levi, before we get to the work behind me, there's a painting that predates this piece, and it was part of your exhibition at Arts Whistler across the street. I believe that show was called After the Blast, and let's bring up that first image for Levi to discuss.
Right, so this painting is called Raven and the Last Meal, and you could see the influence of Bill Reid's sculpture, Raven and the First Men. And it's part of the age-old tradition of the artist visiting the museum to gather inspiration for for our work, and it relates to the painting behind you there, Curtis, and thematically, I would say, through after the blast, which was a metaphor for what happened to Indigenous people through colonialism, and my exploration of that through oil painting.
And this is an oil on canvas, is that correct, or oil on board?
This is oil on canvas, yeah. Yeah.
And why did you choose oil on canvas? It has a, you know, a very long and storied part of art history.
Yeah, well, I'm an oil painter, and one thing that I'm conscious of when I'm working also as an Indigenous artist is that oil painting is a European tradition, and I think the way I like to marry my work of exploring Indigenous culture, but bringing it to a more, I guess, contemporary time is through oil painting.
And why does this particularly well-known piece by Bill Reid, Raven and First Men, resonate with you?
Well, before I really dove into painting, I used to visit the Museum of Anthropology a lot and sketch their collection. And I was just moved by the sheer size of this sculpture by Bill Reid. And I was thinking about, you know, what would happen if this sculpture came to life and flew out the, you know, the skylight in the museum, and what this creature might see today. And I remember one of my cousins, she was working on our sink while I was painting this in my mom's kitchen. And I said, do you think people are going to be insulted that I'm depicting this raven like this? And she kind of just shrugged her shoulders, and she's like, no, you know, that's what they do today anyway. They kind of, you know, pick up.
Actually, that's a very good characterization of the raven and their ongoing presence here on the shared territories of the Squamish and Lil'wat Nations. So
you'll also notice my little nod to Andy Warhol with that Campbell's soup can there in the background.
Another very nice reference. So I really recall our first meeting, Levi, when you came with your truck under the building, and we looked at some paintings, and I was very impressed at that time, and you know, wanted to see what the museum could do for you. And as a result of that very first meeting, you moved ahead and with the painting behind me that we ended up purchasing courtesy of the Bruno Family Foundation. And perhaps you can sort of dig into the imagery in this work.
Sure. So this painting contains some Indigenous artifacts from the Audain collection, as well as some Lil'wat baskets. Like you'll see the figure on the far left is wearing what's called a slap, or a berry picking basket from the Lil'wat Nation. And this exact basket was actually woven by my grandmother, Vera Edmonds. She's a master basket weaver in the Lil'wat Nation. There's also an older basket by Matilda Jim from the Museum of Anthropology, and Tlingit bentwood box there beside it, and 3 masks from the Audain collection. Again, you know, that's me going into the museum and doing some sketches and finding inspiration from masterworks of artists who have come before me.
And before we showed the actual images of those pieces, the actual street scene, where did you pull that image from, Levi?
Sorry, there's a garbage truck going out down below on the street, 5 stories down. It's gone now, but yeah. So this is a scene from a neighborhood in Vancouver, the downtown east side, which is sort of you know, connects to the idea of after the blast, and the theme I was getting at with how Indigenous people have been affected by colonialism and I have family who have fallen into this particular neighborhood, and what I wanted to do was to show that although the Indigenous population is quite large in this neighborhood, around 33% of the people there in this particular neighborhood are Indigenous people, and I wanted to connect the people to their rich histories and to give them an identity, which is why I decided to include masking some of the individuals in this painting, some of the figures.
Okay, and as you had mentioned, Levi, one of the first interactions between the museum and yourself was that we invited you in on our closed days so that you could sit in the Crystal Gallery, which is the first space in the permanent collection here at the museum, and draw a number of the masks in this wonderful collection we have here. And the first mask that we'll bring up is the Haida Portrait Mask of circa 1840. And anything that appealed to you about this particular mask and then incorporating it into your painting?
Yeah, it spoke to me on a really deep level. Just the character that you see in the face of this, it felt like it would fit. As I was developing this painting, it kind of work in a very intuitive way, and I just felt that this would be one of the figures. Like, first of all, I drew the figures of the three people, and then I had to come up with how to mask them. I found that this Haida Portrait Mask, which is also has a libret, which is it indicates status in the Haida Nation, that libret.
Excellent. And then the next mask is a raven mask from circa 1860, and it's again among some of the kinetic masks in the collection, in that fact that it has moving parts. How did this work appeal to you?
For me, it spoke about creation and the creation story, and how this raven is holding the sun in its mouth. There's that the creation story of Raven steals the light, and he stole it and put the sun in the sky so that all of humankind and living beings could have light. And
okay, and then finally we have a Nunchung mask from circa 1900 that is the other of the three masks featured in your painting. How did you respond to this piece?
Well, I just thought I found this mask to have a lot of character, with the thick eyebrows and just the look on his face, and how masks were used in every in ceremony and in dances to interpret certain ideas, and I think this mask in particular just had a lot of character. It's very it's different from a lot of traditional masks on the Northwest Coast. It's very unique, and just the amount of character that it has, and the look on his face, which is almost worried in a sense, and it spoke to me on that level.
Okay, we'll go back. We'll go back to the painting that is in fact just went up here in the permanent collection gallery. Any closing comments on looking at this painting now? It's what, 2.5 years old? How do you respond to it tonight?
I love the vibrancy and the color and the energy of the painting. It just seems like there's a lot of movement. Tonight I was thinking a lot about the upper left corner of the atom bomb going off, which connects to the theme of my show, After the Blast. Some people think of that as a poster. When I painted this, I was picturing it as actually happening in the very background, but I think both interpretations are valid. there's also, the text up in the upper right corner. That says society, and I feel I'm still very moved by this painting, and honored to be a part of the collection at the Audain.
Wonderful, and it's positioned across from a Gordon Smith triptych and an oversized Zoniqua mask by Bo Dick. So it's in very good company. So next we'll move to a collective effort between yourself and Halacton, also in association with Jim Hart, Jim's Three Watchmen, and then the base that was created, The Great Flood, by yourself and Halacton. And perhaps you can describe this diagram of the ring that we'll see in a few moments that goes around the base.
Sure, this is our initial sketch that Halacton and I worked on in a whole day at Halacton's North Vancouver studio. So what we see here are from Halacton are the Squamish Nation ancestral eye creating this wave, which connects to the name of it, Tiacha Shta, which means the Great Flood in Lil'wat. And on the left and the right sides are pictographs from the Squamish and the Lil'wat people of wolves. So the left is a Squamish wolf, and on the far right is what I've been calling wolf drumming in the moonlight of a starry night. You'll notice how this figure of the wolf has human legs. Lil'wat Nation are descendants of the wolf, and he's holding a drum, and the little dots there represent the starry night. And in the center, we have figures in the canoe that are riding the waves. So that also references the Great Flood. And these figures, you'll notice, have horns, and the figure in the back of the canoe, which I interpret as spiritual spiritual beings.
Okay, and now we'll actually go to an image of you during the execution process. Perhaps you can talk about what you're actually doing here.
Right, so this aluminum ring, it came in quite shiny, and if we thought that if we left it as is, over time it would get nicks and maybe some scratches, but so we decided to buff it out and give it a nice brushed finished look with this 120 grit sandpaper. So I spent, I think it took me about 3 days of sanding in the Audain loading bay. It was nice hot summer day. People would come by and kind of watch because the door was open, and I went through a lot of sandpaper.
And then the next shot that we have is actually a really nice close-up on the pictograph image, and you can see this is actually installed, and it's a shot from the evening where we have this backlighting that has this wonderful effect on the whole stencil-like ring. Anything else you want to comment on that image?
I just think it looks beautiful. I haven't seen it at night yet. I've only seen it during the day, but I've been people have been sharing pictures with me of what this looks like at night, and it just looks spectacular. If you haven't seen it, I still have to see it, but I mean, I'm very proud of this piece. It's breathtaking.
As we are at the museum as well. And so in early November, we had a ceremony to launch, as I said, Jim Hart's The Three Watchmen, and the base piece by yourself, and Halacton, The Great Flood. And I think we have an image of someone that you might know here, Levi.
Yeah, so that's my mom in the foreground in her buckskin dress. It was a really cold day, so she's still wearing her winter coat and her winter boots. My sister is there behind her, and we're dancing the Loon Dance. And the Loon Dance actually celebrates the end of the Great Flood. It's a really ancient song from the Lil'wat Nation. And you know, like the Great Flood from the Bible and the Great Flood from the Lil'wat Nation story both have birds. And in the Bible, it's a dove that comes with an olive branch to signify that there's land and the water is starting to recede. But in the Lil'wat Nation story, it was a loon that danced on the water with a willow branch. And it's just interesting to think about these connective histories through these ancient stories that have survived.
In addition to yourself and your mom and your sister dancing, we also had Halakton's brother, hereditary chief Dale Harry, get the entire street mimicking a variety of animals that were part of the dance that he initiated. And then that was followed by Jim Hart, Rosemary Hart, and Gwalaga also dancing and drumming and spreading eagle down around the base of the piece. So it was just a wonderful afternoon, and everyone at the museum was just thrilled to see how many local people showed up for the unveiling of this piece. And I think the last image we have is a really nice shot of yourself. In the middle is James Hart and Halakton. How's that help, you position yourself as an artist being associated with these two notable BC artists?
Oh my God, I'm incredibly grateful. I feel with this project that they both took me under their wing, and being a young artist and having the opportunity to create a work of art with these two amazing, renowned artists, James Hart and Halakton Rick Harry. Chief Ashley Joseph, the Alpcal, made a really beautiful speech and about how as older artists, they pass down their knowledge to younger artists, and that one day it'll be me mentoring another younger artist to come along. And it was just an amazing day that I'll remember forever.
Yes, and I just want to thank you and your family for your generosity that day. So now we're going to move on to the question and answer period of TNT. And for those of you that want to submit live questions, we'll see, how much time we have. You can submit them through the chat function. However, we were fortunate enough to receive actually quite a number of questions in advance for those people that registered. And I would encourage everyone, as you're registering for TNT each week, you can submit questions that we go through with the artist in advance. So the first question is a bit of a composite. It comes from Jason in Vancouver, Caroline in Squamish, and Catherine in Victoria. How has living in New York City impacted your work, and has New York City become a subject in your current work?
Oh my gosh. Being in New York has been a completely life-changing experience. I'm learning a lot about art, and I'm learning a lot about life, but I'm also exposed to masterworks from some of the greatest living artists in art history. Like when I first arrived, I visited the Guggenheim, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the Whitney all in 1 week, and it has had a profound impact on my painting, of being able to see, the textures of these paintings, to stand before them. When I was doing my bachelor's degree at Emily Carr University, I would only see these works in textbooks or on through images on the screen. But yeah, it's definitely had a huge impact on my work. New York hasn't quite made it into my paintings, but it has helped me realize my position as an Indigenous person in society, but also as an Indigenous artist. And I'm here at Columbia University in the center of the art world in New York, and I walk down the street every day. My apartment is 3 blocks away, and I pinch myself, and I'm grateful every single day for being here.
Wonderful. Glenn in Vancouver asks, are you interested in the work of Emily Carr with regard to how she rendered Indigenous art here in British Columbia?
Yes. Emily Carr, she's a phenomenal female artist and an artist in general. And I think she has captured not only, the feel and the energy of Indigenous communities that she depicted in her paintings, but if you've been lucky enough, like I'm sure most of our viewers in British Columbia, when you're walking through the woods in the West Coast, you feel that energy and the magic of the forest that she captured. And she's definitely, you see her influence from Cubism, and she's amazing.
Okay. Elizabeth from here in Whistler asks, how have you adjusted to living in New York City, coming from a small community such as Mount Currie?
Well, when I first landed in New York, it was a culture shock. Like, it's always been a dream to come here. But when I first arrived back in August, I came to the astonishing realization that I grew up on an Indian reservation, which is a form of segregation, and it's been eye-opening to the position of Indigenous people in Canada and the United States. Like this painting, for instance, behind me is called Dead Horse, and it shows a scene from, it could be any Indian reserve in Canada, but I think the adjustment has been, I've adjusted quite well. I love fashion, I love the city life, and it's fast paced. I mean, I work about 12 to 16-hour days here, and it's incredible.
That's great, Levi. Linda from Toronto asks, how is being a grad student helping your work?
Oh. Well, being here at Columbia University as a grad student, they provided me with my own studio here at Watson Hall. I'm with my cohorts who are just amazing artists to work alongside. We push each other, and the faculty, and just the exposure that we have to being here in New York, to the connection that we have to the surrounding museums, it's the perfect place to be able to hone my craft. Like doing my master's degree here I'm taking a deep dive and then trying, exploring what it is that I want to say to the world with my art, through which I'm, the fine art oil paintings that have figures, to the paintings which are, the mixed media works, and it's helping me to figure out my place in art history.
Wonderful. And the last question, NP from Vancouver asks, how do you see your work evolving over the next few years?
Wow. I look at my work and I see there's a few different channels that I'm kind of moving down and navigating with the fine art oil paintings. There's the mixed media works, which are collage, acrylic, and silk screen on canvas, and you'll see in those paintings, I'm more often than not on the same surface looking at pop culture iconography as well as Indigenous iconography. So like Sitting Bull will be on the same surface as Snow White, and I think what I'm getting at in those particular works is how Snow White is just as much a part of my past as Sitting Bull, and they're both iconic to me as, you know, Coca-Cola or Pepsi.
Well, that gives us a great opportunity to talk about your more recent works, and let's bring up the next painting, please. Perhaps you can begin to talk about this little figure and backdrop.
Right. So this painting is called The Little People. It was painted a couple months back. It's my first painting that I did here in New York. And the Little People are a part of Indigenous culture. Like if something goes missing, like our keys or our cell phone, for instance, we'll say, "Oh my God, maybe the Little People stole it." When I finished this painting, I realized that this is my great grandmother's living room, like that couch that everybody's grandmother owned. That's her floor and those walls. And I haven't stepped foot in that living room since I was 10 years old, but it subconsciously made its way through. A funny side note, that couch has actually been nicknamed Colony Awful. And I discovered that.
That's a brilliant joke.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next recent work. It's a beautiful piece.
Yes,
Perhaps
this is called Old Women with Libret. It was painted in 2021 as well, and it's now in the collection of Signal Hill Elementary School. And I also borrowed and was inspired by a mask in the Audain Art collection, permanent collection as well. This is a mask by Frida Diesing called Old Women with Libret. The painting shares the same title, but it also references a dance called Shulialishta from the Lil'wat Nation. Shulialishta was an ancestor who looked like she danced while she was walking. The moccasins and the blanket were from one of my ancestors, elders named Josie, who is no longer with us. And my mom actually modeled the hands. Those are my mom's hands. This isn't that.
Let's go to a shot of the actual Frida Diesing Old Woman Mask with Labret from 1973, which is actually also on display just around the corner from where I'm sitting now. What appealed to you about this mask and how you've incorporated it into your painting?
Well, it was just the sheer power of the mask itself. I mean, you feel the majesty of this character, of this old woman with Libret, and in our culture, when only people of high status wore librets in their lips, and I was looking for a way to add character to the painting of Shulialishta, because through my research, I haven't found any Lil'wat masks. A lot of our artifacts are stone carvings or basketry. But I haven't approached any ancestral masks from the Lil'wat people.
Let's flip back to the painting for a moment. Now, I know that your backgrounds are really offer another key, but also can you talk about the scale of this work so people get an understanding of how to relate to it in terms of their physical presence?
Sure. This painting is roughly 4 feet by 3 feet. And you'll notice the silhouettes of people in the background. There's a woman holding a baby. There's a crowd watching this dance because this is a dance that would be performed at a community event. There's a lot of different actions to it. Shulialishta, she sits, she walks, which is all said in Uqamuk, in my language. And she even scratches her bum in one part of the song.
Okay, let's move on to the next work now. And it's much more graphic in orientation, and it depicts a very important person.
Yeah, this is Nakota Elder Betty Hunter. I came across this black and white photograph from, I believe, I can't remember the year. This is a part of my mixed media works of collage, acrylic, and I believe I also used oil paint, but I just thought her presence and her attitude with the smoking the pipe was just I was just so moved by this image. I had to paint her.
And there's it's a very high keyed color palette and quite a flat background. Is that something that you're moving towards increasingly in your work?
Yeah, I've done a lot of acrylic and collage. I think I've done enough of these particular types of work to have an entire show. I feel it's just a way for me to comment about the contemporary moment while connecting with my Indigenous history. You'll notice like the collage elements which come from grocery store flyers, in particular, no frills. So I'm sort of commenting on a particular class. And I remember growing up and going to the grocery store and always having to purchase the cheapest item on the shelf. And when I moved to Vancouver and my work started to sell, I said, I don't have to buy the cheapest cheese. I could buy brie now. That's just a little backstory on
that. You're moving on from Kraft and Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Down bottom right, there's a Indian head penny there with Liberty that I've also incorporated with oil paint stick. I'm sort of touching on neo-expressionism here as well.
Excellent. Let's move on to the next work. This is a really beautiful piece. Levi, perhaps you can talk about the title and the dimensions and the subject matter.
Yeah, so this is also 3 feet by 4 feet. I believe it belongs to Jillian Siddle and her partner. Jillian is the president of Emily Carr University. This painting was featured, it was a part of the show Resurgence, Indigiqueer Identities at the Bill Reid Gallery. It was painted, I believe, in 2019, if I remember correctly. It's done with silkscreen, which you see the background of the 2 male figures holding hands. This is Old Spirit medicine man called Old Doctor. He's also rendered in silkscreen with copper and glow-in-the-dark paint. And up in the left corner there, you see Rainbow Bright from a popular 1980s cartoon that I grew up watching. And
how do you bridge Rainbow Bright with this Indigenous figure for yourself?
Right. So I'm the show. It was a part of Indigiqueer Identities. Another word is Two-Spirit, or queer, gay, LGBTQ themed show. And so the rainbow connects to the rainbow flag. There's also I ripped some advertisements out of the back pages of these vintage magazines that I found at Little Sister's bookstore on Davie Street. There's an image of Andy Warhol. He's kind of doing this similar hand gesture as Two-Spirit medicine man. And on the right side there's a small image of Keith Haring even. And along the very bottom, you could barely...
A wonderful collage of images that you've connected in a very strategic and brilliant ways. Let's move on to your next painting that we're going to discuss. Oh, here we go. This is really quite different. And perhaps you can talk about how you arrived at such a different sort of rendering as what we've seen to date.
Sure. Yeah, this was a part of the same show, actually. It's called Gender Performativity. So I was thinking about ideas from Judith Butler and her theories around gender. And one thing that influences my work a lot are essays by scholars such as Judith Butler and Marcia Crosby. And I'm exploring and marrying Indigenous, the ovoid and faces with again the rainbow of the rainbow flag, because I thought it was relevant to this particular show. This one is quite huge, actually. I think it's like 6.5 feet across by 5 feet high. And it's in the collection of Kennedy Bear Robe.
Wonderful. And you said that this piece was a precursor to the next one, and perhaps you can continue the conversation about what's happening in this work.
Right. So this painting was done here in New York. I finished it a couple of weeks ago. It's titled Color Theory, and you'll notice just how much more advanced, or even I've gotten at rendering the salmon ovoid heads, and even the color palette itself, which you could, if you think about Lawrence Paul Yahué-Lipton, and how like he's been one of my major influences in my practice since I was about 10 years old. I remember seeing his work at the Vancouver Art Gallery. In particular, the painting Red Man Watching White Man Trying to Fix Hole in the Sky. I saw that when I was 10 and was just completely moved by the possibility of what can be said through art. I've left a lot of space. Sorry,
Levi, if you'll continue to pursue what's often referred to as the form line design in terms of those ovoids and different treatments of them, the U shape. Is that something you plan on pursuing more?
Yeah, I'd like to switch it up. I've heard when the ovoid is used by itself, a term by also Lawrence Paul, he's termed it ovoidism, and he likes to explore how the ovoid behaves on itself by itself, and so do I. And I think it will continue to, like, I've been exploring it a lot lately in a lot of my more recent paintings that you'll see on my Instagram page. But this is another stream of work that I'm exploring, and I'm hoping like somewhere down the line, they all kind of converge.
Let's go to a full screen of Levi for a moment, because he's got quite a beautiful piece just over his shoulder that is related to these ovoid works.
Which shoulder?
That one.
Oh, yeah. So this I did a series of prints recently. This is called Techno Hybrid 2. The first series is also called Techno Hybrid, and it includes pictographs, Northwest Coast styled art, and also Coast Salish, all on one surface. And I think it relates to the Three Watchmen sculpture in a sense by how James Hart from Haida Portrait. There's Holacton from the Squamish Nation, Coast Salish, and myself from Lil'wat, or the Stallion territory.
And is printmaking something that you think that you'll continue to pursue in a very pronounced way? I know you sent us some pictures of you pulling prints at Columbia.
Yeah, I just have so many ideas that I want to get out, and they come out of my, they develop and through the print work that are hybrid mixes of different nations all on one surface, to the fine art oil paintings with the figures, to the more, I guess, maybe like shapes and like almost geometric works. And it's
That's a great segue for the last image we have in your slide presentation, which again keys on that form line design and the ovoid, but in a very different way. Can you begin to talk about this piece for us, please?
Yeah, I believe I've done about 4 or 5 paintings in this style with these colors, with it's inspired obviously by Cubism of Georges Braque and Picasso, but again, I'm including shapes from the Northwest Coast with the ovoids and the split U's. But this particular series, and this painting was done in 2021. It's called The Creator Within. Other paintings in this series have been named Surfacing, Acha Omuch, which means the spirit dimension. So I'm thinking about spirituality, and also the formation of idea in the mind of an artist, and how do these ideas arrive in our minds, and how do images form inside our brain, and also touch us on a spiritual level. Like when I think about, I remember doing meditation, and the person leading the meditation was telling us to imagine a color washing over our body that would relax us, and these are my colors that I would picture during meditation. Or yeah.
Well, Levi, I want to thank you for such a fascinating conversation, and you've led us into your process and the things that you think about and relate to with regards to this piece behind me, as well as the other works that you've discussed tonight. I also want to thank the diligent team here at the museum. It's been a trying few years, but we're still boldly opening and offering all kinds of different engagement opportunities. Thank you to Michael Audain and Yoshika Karasawa for their ongoing support. Thank you to our trustees and our founders. Also, as mentioned before, our TNT Season 3 patron, Susan Roop. I would be remiss if I didn't give a huge thanks to Justine Nickel, our director-producer, and Paige Keith, our quality control person. And I want to thank all the museum's members, as well as you, the viewers, that make this program possible. I have a few little shout outs. Season 3 is in memory of my parents, Anne and Roy Collins from Cornwall, Ontario. My little sister Susie is staying up late again this season in Canada. My friend Katie G on Grand Manan Island in New Brunswick, and Tyson B in Dawson City, Yukon. And I believe you have a couple shout outs, Levi.
Yeah, I'd like to say hello to everybody tuning in from Lil'wat Nation territory, which is comprised of Mount Currie and Pemberton and Whistler. It's been a treat, and I'm so happy that you guys all tuned in. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful and supporting community of my practice. It's an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Levi. Next week we have Reese Terrace from Vancouver and a series of photographs and a model called The Bridge. And I just want to say good night from the flashlights glow here in Whistler, British Columbia, to you in New York City, Levi Nelson.
Yeah, good night, everybody from New York City. It's almost midnight here. Thank you for tuning in.
Okay, good night.
Good night.